Oh, there's still people popping in
It's
the
already
room.
going.
You know what? That was someone that has their like recorder going, which is totally fine because we've every so often there's a snafu with the recording. So, hi everyone. Boy, you're a sight for sore eyes. When it feels like the world is falling apart, I'm like, oh, but you guys. And guess who we have with us, everybody? Anna is here. Anna, we love you so much. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Where do we even start? God bless you for all that you have gone through, and you're still writing articles, and you're still putting them in the box, and you're still teaching us what to do on top of everything. What can we do for you, Anna? Oh, and you're muted. We have to unmute you.
So I am back on a somewhat limited basis. I want to remind everybody that any charges brought are not against me. They're against franchise corporations that don't even really exist. Okay. And so this is really an administrative matter. Virtually everything that goes on is administrative in its nature. And so there are lots of different things that go on with this. We are in the process of serving foreign court judgments on them. We're in the process of working with military to get them arrested for racketeering. We are pursuing a very extensive appeal in their own courts because they violated their own laws and their own constitutions. And so there's like a three-pronged effort here. Now, I just want to observe, everybody looks at this and they say, oh my, your husband just died, and they pull this kind of crap on you, and how are you surviving? And let me tell you, it's tough, but we're tough, we have gone through a lot, and our lives are devoted to putting an end to this nonsense. And that's really what it is in the end, is nonsense. They are renting our property from us, then hiring subcontractors to administer the property for them, and pretending that we're the renters. Right. Okay. You got the picture? And we have them dead to rights. We have all of the material that we need. But I think this is going to be far more significant than just a battle over a house in Alaska or anything related to it. I think that this is going to blow open the entire scheme, everything that they've done to misadminister our land and our assets, quote unquote, for us without our knowledge or consent. And I think it's really going to be the the Rubicon for them. Now, as for me, I have always known that a court is helpless until someone brings a properly stated claim before the court. Somebody with the background and the evidence and the know-how to actually empower the court to make decisions that are just. And so, my faith in, you can call it God, you can call it the morphogenetic information field. My faith is that everything happens for a reason. It happens according to a divine timeline. And there's a reason why this has happened to me at this specific time. Because I am probably one of the few people on earth who actually is prepared to present the kind of evidence that is incontrovertible, that has everything lined out in the public record, and who can come forward and actually make it stick, okay? So when this goes down for me, they basically have two choices. They can completely exonerate me and expunge the case as if it never happened, or they can let it go forward and find in my favor, in which case it creates what's known as a stare decisis that applies all over the country. And I'm really hoping that they don't turn tail and run, because if they don't turn tail and run and give me absolutely everything that I want, then they are going to have something on the books that precludes them from doing this to anybody else anywhere in the country. And right now it's kind of a game of chicken, you know? Are they going to dismiss and exonerate? Or are they going to get it full up in the chops? And I don't care which, you know, from my perspective, I would like them to take it full up in the chops, because that will be the end of this entire evil system. If they don't, they exonerate and dismiss, I'm going to show each and every one of you what to do so that if they come after you on your land or your property or try to make any kind of complaint against you whatsoever, you have everything that you need to, you know, put the lie to it and kick their butts, okay? Now, what we've been working toward all this time is to get the recognition of the land and soil jurisdiction government, right? And our state assemblies are superior to any kind of employee assembly that they can concoct. It's superior to any British territorial district assembly. It's superior to any municipal district assembly, okay? So the accusation against us has been that we weren't in session. Nobody knew where we were. You know, we were absent. We were in interregnum. Well, guess what? We've been in session for over 5 years. Okay. So we now have our own little state credential cards, and those credential cards are being accepted all over the world now. Right. We've done some pretty extensive testing, because of course my purse was stolen from me, and my ID and the ideas that go with that were stolen also, of course. That happened 2 days before Jim died. My purse was stolen out of my car, parked in my driveway for a few minutes. So it was a professional job. I live out in the country, right? So there's nobody around to do that in broad daylight on a Saturday afternoon. But anyway, they stole my ID, and I've been using our state credential ID because that's all that I had left. And it's been working for everything. Absolutely everything.
That's awesome.
Yes, and the only ones that had any questions about it were the passport people, because I had an older version ID that did not have an issuance and expiration date. However, I still look enough like the photograph on it, so there wasn't really a question. So anyway, our IDs are now being accepted and recognized worldwide. And they are as good as saying, okay, I'm not a federal citizen of any kind. Okay. So when you have your state credential ID and you go, then that stands for the fact that your government is in session and that you are not lost. You're not lost at sea. There's really no question about who you are and where you're from, and that you have basically rejected the idea of being a federal dual citizen. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to make sure everybody's clear on is that I think there's been a misunderstanding of thinking that commerce is bad, right? Because they use the straw man to such an extent to create this phony citizenship of the United States. I just want to observe to you that commerce can be carried forward from the land as well as the sea. Now, try to envision a world where you have the land is butting up to the seashore, right? So you have the land on one side and the sea on the other. What is above both?
The air.
The air. And so you can reach the air jurisdiction from the sea, or you can reach the air jurisdiction from the land. And both are completely appropriate. Both are the way that it is, just naturally, right? So they have control of this sea jurisdiction entity that they created, right, out of thin air. But we have control of our commercial vessels, if you will, in commerce that go from the land to the air. And again, it's a matter of being able to stand there on your little flat feet and say, wait a minute, I'm from the land and soil, and if I conduct commerce, it's under these rules, and it's from the land to the air, it's not from the sea to the air. And so these are things you need to think about and be aware of. Commerce can be land jurisdiction or sea jurisdiction. It can be under the public law of the land, or it can be under all 80 million statutes of the sea. And of course, those of us who've declared ourselves and expatriated and have denied US citizenship obligations at the territorial level have also automatically forestalled any possibility of being a citizen of the United States under the 14th Amendment. And people are scratching their heads and they're asking me, well, how can that be so? Well, if you think about it, you started out as this American baby, right? And then they created this British territorial person and latched on to your given name, right? The British territorial person has the exact same name as you do. All right. So they pulled this switch-o-change-o fraud scheme, substituted the British territorial person for you, and created an American infant decedent estate as a public trust for them to administer, right? That all happened wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, within about 3 weeks of your birth. It's something that you could not possibly be aware of and could not condone or agree to. All right, it's an unconscionable contract. And your mother didn't know what it was either. She wasn't given any full disclosure. So it is a venal contract, it's a fraudulent contract. It cannot be held against you in any way. But here's what else. When they created the British person, they used the British person as the excuse to create the municipal person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got this British entity, this merchant mariner called a taxpayer. He or she is supposed to be a warrant officer in the British Merchant Marines, responsible for collecting taxes and tariffs, right?
At like 2 days old.
Yeah, right. But here's the British person, and when the British person is declared legally dead because of bankruptcy in commerce, right? Okay, so the British person is legally dead, and they create what? They create the Roman inferior municipal trust, the straw man. But if you don't have a British person in the middle, there's no basis to create the straw man at the municipal level. Okay, so when you take out that British straw man, you don't have any presumption of of municipal citizenship, and you don't have any presumption that you created an American infant descendant estate. You're simply enjoying the estate of that infant. You see, the linchpin holding this whole fraud together is a British Crown Corporation in between, in the middle. And when you take out that middleman, that middle element of the fraud scheme, then the whole thing falls apart. And
Well,
that's what we're doing.
here's the issue, Anna, and I run into this all the time with people that ask me questions when they're struggling with the, state of state. They've got their franchise tax board coming after them. They've got issues with their quote mortgages that are obviously in the all caps Strawman name, right? It's this commercial entity, this construct that was created for them, probably because of the law of kinds, because living people can't contract with the dead, right?
Right.
Create this commercial quote person,
Right.
such that there could be banking and there could be commerce and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Here's where the rubber is meeting the road. And I think would be so helpful for us to have an avenue, a clear avenue that is able to be upheld and withstand the challenges. It's when the living man or the living woman has to have, they have a job, they've got to put food on the table, and they have to deal with these forms, and they try to do exempt, or they do the 9,999 dependents in order to avoid the withholding of the taxation on their W-2s, or they do 1099s because they're independent sort of quote contractors of some sort. And it's really that entanglement that I'm seeing that's the biggest challenge. That's the challenge that comes up over and over again. It's the way that they've the perpetrators of this racketeering fraud, the way that they've set up this system is so layered. It's like this onion, right? Because not only did they claim eminent domain over the land and name things like towns and cities and addresses and all the infrastructure. Therefore, it's like they stuck their flag in the land and said, this is ours and we're naming it, and now you're subjects of it. So that's one issue. The other issue is all the ways that our names have been hijacked. And then it's the taxation system. So like you and I, we know, all of us on this call, we know living people cannot contract with the dead, period. End of story. It's like trying to contract with my dog. You can't, there's no agreement because the veil just is not split in those two, right? But it's when the people get into trouble because they're not successfully separating themselves from their function.
They're also being mistaken for operating in sea jurisdiction commerce versus land jurisdiction commerce. Okay.
Can you talk more about that, such that people are empowered to know how to stand on that difference, and how to make sure that when they're being attacked by these agencies, that they're able to prove that they're not the same thing. Their time and energy and effort is not a quote for-profit function. It's like they're trading their time and energy for just compensation, if you want to call it that. But it's not profitable. They're not tax collectors. They're not engaging and willfully engaging with these tax agencies. Can you say more about land, the relationship between land dwellers and commerce?
Well, we were just discussing how if you get rid of the British person, the whole scheme falls apart.
Uh-huh.
Well, one of the ways that you get rid of the British person is by doing an affidavit of life, which is a testimony in the form of an affidavit for us,
Okay.
and presenting it to whoever is accusing you. And that just puts an end to their presumption of any dead British person. It makes the British person alive, okay? So now the British person has to be considered to be alive, having received an affidavit of life. And then what you do is you expatriate from the presumption of US citizenship under the Expatriation Act of 1868. And that destroys the British person in the middle, that is the linchpin and glue that makes this entire scheme work. So suddenly you're alive, number one. Number two, you're not British. Okay, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And that then gives you control of your infant descendant estate and forces them to recognize the status that you're standing in. Now that we have our assemblies standing up in all 50 states, it makes a tremendous difference in terms of the power dynamics that go on in the country, because your states of the union are instrumentalities of the sovereign nation state in international jurisdiction. So suddenly they all have to step back and listen to us. And we all have the responsibility of thinking about and planning for a continental Congress.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to require a lot of study on a lot of people are going to have to really bone up and gain a better understanding of jurisdiction and law. And then we can, put our Continental Congress into session, and hopefully that will make a big difference for the better for everybody. We have a lot of different organizations that are trying to gainsay the assemblies. We have all these commissions, we have all these boroughs, cities, towns, all these different designations. And what we have to get back to is what's real. And what's real are just the living, breathing people. They've used all of these different titles, all these different offices, to create false presumptions about each and every one of us. I mean, when they say you're a voter, that's part of their personnel system. When they say you're a citizen, that makes you part of their personnel system. If you're a doctor, a lawyer, or an Indian chief, you are now a person and you are presumed to be part of their system. But we have the right, if we have enough means, to stand up against this presumption of British territorial citizenship and against the presumption of municipal citizenship, 14th Amendment citizenship, and to set ourselves free. It's sort of like that old Eagles song. So oftentimes it happens that you live your lives in chains and never even know you hold the key. Well, this is the part where you come to know that you hold the key. And once you know that you hold the key and that you can undo their evil by simply attesting that you're alive, okay, and that there's a record of your life event, your birthing, that is on the land and soil jurisdiction as of your actual birthday. Now, if you look at a birth certificate of any kind, and these are clearinghouse certificates, by the way, which puts a whole different insight into how they work and what they are. But any birth certificate that you look at or see is going to have the day that you were born, in my case, June 6th, 1956, and then a couple, 2-3 days or a week or two later, you'll see a file date. And the file date is the date that you were basically human trafficked into the jurisdiction of the sea and redefined as a British person. So in my case, I have numerous birth certificates. One that was related to my actual birth event on June 6, 1956. Then there was a British territorial person created on June 24th, 1956. And then there was a municipal person created on June 27th, 3 days later in 1956. And you can follow this whole progression to see how they did it. But when you stand up and say, hey, yeah, there's a record on the Office of the Vital Statistics or the Office of the Registrar in Michigan, under the auspices of the Secretary of State, that clearly shows that Anna Maria Reisinger was born on June 6, 1956, and drew her first breath in Neillsville, Wisconsin. Oh my. And now here's this babe so many years later saying, yes, I was born in Neillsville, Wisconsin, and I'm still alive. Okay, now what? Now they're dealing with the adult, not the baby. Now they're dealing with an adult that knows what the contract was and is in a position to object to that contract and say, no, I expatriated under the Expatriation Act of 1868, and I do not adopt any form of federal citizenship. All of a sudden, boom, all that stuff has to go away. And that's where we want to be. It isn't that we don't need services from these organizations, but we need the services to be within the limits set by the federal constitutions. We need the operations overall to be cleaned up. We need much better fiscal oversight in terms of money coming in and money coming out, money being invested in the name of the people of California, for example. And we definitely need more people to ride herd on these different organizations. Right now we have the state of Alaska, upper lowercase. We have the state of Alaska, all capital letters. We have the Postmaster of the United States of America and his wife, okay? Yeah, all this stuff is in play at the same time. But if you come forward and say, hey, I'm alive, and reference the birth certificate data, okay, that you are still, hey, alive, then they automatically just put you into the British territorial person slot. You've returned from over the sea, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then what? Well, then you go do the double whammy of saying, okay, I'm still alive, and this is what I want. This is how I want my estate administered. And that's what they can't stand, is that you get to tell them how you want your money spent. You get to tell them how you want to be treated by your employees. And you get to tell them, more or less, what you are owed as an individual.
And we can tell them where the sun don't shine. Go stick it.
That too. Yep. So we've got a lot of good things that are on the way here, folks. Do not be in despair. Do not be afraid. Don't think that, oh, Anna lost. No, Anna has just begun to fight, and Anna has all different things in preparation, all the things that she needs to demonstrate all these core issues. So they're either going to capitulate or they're going to lose the whole shooting match, because now we can bring it before our court. The Alaska Assembly met on Tuesday. and they are looking at the state of Alaska Constitution with completely new eyes and understanding of what the words actually mean. Okay, and so we're going to be taking some votes. We're putting together the grand jury here. We're taking some votes regarding the Alaska Constitution and our findings of fact concerning it. Now that's going to be the first thing. All right, can you hear the nails going into the coffin here? Okay, so, and then the next things that the grand jury gets to consider are issues of identity. You know, how, when, and what evidence is there that individual people were taken advantage of? And so, depending on the outcome of those deliberations, then we can potentially get rid of all the birth certificate mumbo jumbo and rely on other facts and the American common law to put an end to all of that too. So we're headed toward a much simpler world. We're headed toward a much less expensive world. And we're looking at a much less coercive world than anything we've known. More freedom, better nutrition, less hassles, less government interference in our lives, less foreign government action that is basically just racketeering. I think we're now at the point of being able to get rid of all the above. Okay, and if they're going to pick on me, all I can say is that they're foolish enough to pick on me.
Well, clearly they're trying, they're certainly trying to intimidate you and to, I don't know, make you go away quietly, stealing your purse, terrorizing you in your own home, and, kicking you out and all of this. Now we know you have the provenance, you've got the goods, you've got the receipts, and you've been in regular communication with your articles and putting them on notice over and over again at the international level, and dealing with both the British territorial, I don't want to say government, but basically you've been keeping them informed of your status and what's going on with our assembling process and where we're at. And so I love your confidence, Anna, because boots on the ground, when people have similar to what happened to you, right? These goons show up and intimidate and kick people out of their homes. It's causing a lot of distress out there.
And I want to bring an end to it as swiftly as possible. And that's why I'm bringing in the United States Army.
Praise God. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I mean, we know we were never supposed to have a standing army, and we certainly were never supposed to have mercenary forces all over the world stealing resources that belong to peoples of other nations. But if you've got that level of communication and you're able to call them in to protect us from that kind of activity right here on our own shores, because we see what they've done with the fires. We saw what they did to Maui a couple of years ago. We saw what they did in Paradise. We saw what they just did in the Palisades. And, there's enough people talking about the fakery and the movie magic and the ways that they're trying to cover their tracks.
Right.
But we've, as people, I think we've become less naive to the shenanigans that they've been pulling for, decades.
Right.
Years
right. Well, I've got 3 hands up on my screen. You want to answer some of these questions?
Yeah, let's go. Okay, Mike, you're up. Mike McGowan.
Oh, thank you. Anna, our hearts go out to you. I know you've been through so much. Can you give us an update on what will happen to the head of state now that Jim has passed? And I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so happy he's been promoted.
Yeah, he has. It's a strange thing. I wish you could have seen the look on his face He was very obviously amazed, astonished, thrilled. He was in a state of joy and wonderment when he left this world. So whatever he saw, whatever he was running toward, it was something wonderful. And we have to realize that even if we could not directly experience that, for him, it was wonderful. Okay? And I think that gives us something to trust in as we go forward in our own lives and face our own mortality, that whatever he saw was beyond all reckoning, beautiful, something absolutely stunning. Okay. I just wanted to share that with you. He went out of this world in a state of ecstasy. Okay. And no sign of pain, no sign of struggle, nothing like that. So now, forgive me, Mike, I'm really tired tonight, but
Oh, thank you.
would you repeat the question for me? I kind of got sidetracked there for a second.
Yeah, the hereditary head of state, how that goes.
Well, normally in a clan, the hereditary office passes to the older son. The oldest son is usually the one that knows the most about the office and has the most experience and support of his father, right? But in this case, the oldest son was already halfway across the country serving as the postmaster in Pennsylvania when this first thing got, when it all got started and everything got booted up, and the middle son was already moved away, and there was no time together with those older sons to teach them anything. I mean, we were learning ourselves, and there, we didn't have the kind of communication and organic time with them to train them or bring them along in the issues and the organizational structures and responsibilities. So my youngest son, Eric, Jim's youngest son, will become the next hereditary head of state. And that is not unknown. It does happen that the circumstance will mitigate toward the youngest son instead of the eldest. And so Eric will be the new head of state. There is a mandatory 30-day period of mourning, which we just passed, before we can begin the whole process of, putting him into position to take over his father's work. And he's been working during that 30-day time period to get up to speed so that he knows the big issues that are facing us all and is prepared to make intelligent decisions about them. Now, I should tell you that he's just a young man, but he is a linguist. He can speak multiple languages. He is a historian. He has spent the last 10 years learning all the history that he can about this country and about the world history, so that he knows everything that he can possibly know at this point about how we got here and what the law is and those big issues that still confront our country. So although he is young, that may be a real advantage in that he has strength and energy and he has the perspective of a young man being brought forward with the information of an old man.
That sounds so wonderful. Well, thank you for giving me the update. One other quick question. I know this is at the minds of a lot. I think when we were talking months ago about banking, that there was kind of the back door of the fiscal year starting and the issues that the de facto has with that we would probably see things. And I know that our banking is close with the treaties and hooking up to the other bankers to nationalize or do the things that they need to be able to talk with global. Can you give us kind of an update of where we're at on that now? You know, because I know on our side, you know, we haven't seen anything deposited in our accounts since early July, and that was regular, and we didn't really know what all that meant or means, or whether it continues and where we're at. But it would be nice to know going forward. And if there is another delay, I had brought up the idea at one point and presented to you about a way we could, you know, hold some of our AFD aside to act in lieu of liability insurance. And you suggested we didn't need or didn't have to have that. But I'm wondering now if the indemnity bond is working, that we could use that in lieu of our liability insurance, and maybe funnel some of that your way, and just rely on that, and then, you know, use our savings to help fund the federation efforts until such time as we become liquidity for the exchange systems up and operating.
Well, there are three major systems that have to be brought into harmony. One is the what I'll call the international trade system, which is involved in the trade of actual assets, gold, silver, and those sorts of things. One of them is the current fiat system, which we still all have to deal with to one extent or another. And the third thing is the prepaid credit system, which has never existed in the entire history of the world. So you've got three major things that all have to be coordinated together, and that are all represented by different banking structures. So you've got the International Trade Bank that does gold, silver, and all of that, the AFD. And that bank is set up, it's ready. You know, the fact that you haven't seen an increase in your AFDs since July, that's the kind of thing that we've gotten down to a point where it can be corrected with just the flick of a button, and it will automatically populate through October and add all those other AFDs in. Okay, so that's almost like an afterthought sort of thing. It's not a big problem to bring that account up to date. You know, it's like that in the case of the AFD. The more important thing about that is being able to get the exchanges functioning the way they should and communicating with each other as they should. And we are concentrated on getting the St. Crown and other exchanges like that to work with our exchange and with our system, which is totally unique. I mean, they're coming out of the old fiat system, and they're having to build new infrastructure and new computer capability in order to be able to connect to our system. But that is happening. There have been some real dogfights, you know, legal dogfights, because the sea jurisdiction regulators wanted to come over and regulate land jurisdiction commerce. And we basically had to go back in and say, no, this is land jurisdiction commerce, but out. All right, so we did have some of that. And then you get to commercial banks. This is where you deal with commerce on land and sea. And you'll notice that when you go to the Global Family Group bank site, you'll see that there is an international trade bank, then there's a commercial bank, and there's a bank of commerce. Well, what the, you know, you're going a commercial bank and a bank of commerce? Well, the commercial bank is the bank that does commerce from the land jurisdiction, And the Bank of Commerce is the bank that is a C jurisdiction commercial bank, okay? And then on top of that, you've got this wonderful thing that's never existed in the history of the world called a prosperity institution, a prosperity union. And this is the banking structure that is prepared to deal with prepaid credit. So you've basically got 4 different institutions that function as an international trade bank, as a land jurisdiction bank dealing in commerce, and you have a C jurisdiction bank of commerce that will allow you to interface with euros and FRNs and USNs and anything like that. And then finally, you have your prepaid credit accounts. So you've got 4 different institutions. They all have to work together. They all have to be able to interface with each other, and they all have to be able to interface with the current banking system to the extent that the current banking system has international trade banks and has commercial banks of commerce. So you can begin to see the complexity of all of this. And, at the same time, huge strides have been made in the system that you can go online, go to the Global Family Group website for the banks and start looking. We've got incredibly friendly user interfaces now that didn't exist. You've got 50 state account websites. So you'll be able to go to your own state website for services. I mean, all this has been built just in the last couple of months. So if you haven't checked out the Global Family Bank website, by all means, go start looking, because there are some very exciting things happening there, and that have happened over the last 2-3 months, that can show you literally, hey, what progress have we made? Well, here you go. There is a lot that has been accomplished, and there's relatively little that we have to do at this point to make all the rest of it work. But it's not just one bank. It's actually 4 different banks that are being created, and you will have one master account that allows you to operate in all these different venues. Now think about that. You'll be able to do commercial transactions, you'll be able to do international trade transactions, and you'll be able to do prepaid credit transactions, all from one account.
Sounds wonderful. And so I think that probably the last piece for our side will be, will they begin with the, I guess we put together a list from each of the 50 assemblies to contact and start doing training so that we can foster the questions that come from those that are going to be having accounts and using the accounts. We'll probably go to our assembly as tier 1 before they would escalate anything up to global. And I haven't heard anything, or we haven't seen anything on training yet. Is that coming around the corner?
I really don't think there's going to be a lot of training needed. They've gotten these user interfaces down to such simple step-by-step. I think, sure, there'll be some questions and there'll be some odd things that happen that we have to troubleshoot. But I think it's going to be pretty much self-explanatory, Here's your gold, here's your silver, here's your prepaid credit, and you can convert that into euros or Federal Reserve notes or whatever you like, and then you'll have an account balance that shows in either the land jurisdiction commercial bank or the C jurisdiction bank of commerce, and you'll be able to move those fiat currencies wherever you want. It's a pretty huge step up from typical online banking, but within the context of each bank, it's still very simple. It's still just money in, money out.
Right. with a system you can trust.
Right, as opposed to a system that's going to steal your deposits.
Yeah. Well, I will yield. Thank you so much, Anna.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike. Great questions. We've got Rocky Roper. Go ahead, Rocky. Rocky's on Nevada.
How you doing there, Anna? You're an
I'm still
inspiration
kicking.
to all of us. Your strength makes us all strong. Anyway, my question is about the Border Defense Task Force, and how does that tie into the assemblies, and how would the coordinators be involved in that?
Well, the Border Defense Task Force is sort of like the federal British Crown version of our peacekeeping task force. Okay. And they're going to be trying to coordinate all the kinds and level of law enforcement to secure the border, right? And it will be a quasi-military organization from the start. Now, I think that in terms of organization, what we should do is have someone from each of the assemblies designated as the militia contact for these different organizations, the PKTF and the the border task force, so that you have someone already in your organization who is tasked with interacting with these people and understanding what their mission is and coming back to tell everybody. There's really nothing wrong with PKTF as a federal task force, networking resources and communications between county sheriffs and state militia commanders and all these various different law enforcement and peacekeeping entities that exist throughout the world, and the military, frankly, because there are ways in which the military's mission overlaps with our civilian activities and our civilian nature, right? So anyway, I would choose someone, either the militia director or commander, however you call your militia head, and either designate him or her as the contact for these task force people, or designate someone else in the militia who has extra time, who is patient and willing to be the task force contact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've been talking to Joe about part of this, and he was talking about taking one of the co-coordinators and have them task them into getting vetted and actually working in the border task force and helping out the county or the states, not county, the states on the border defense, right? And I just want to know more about it. And should the coordinators get involved, or should we, or what should we do as an assembly?
Well, I would participate. If I were an assembly officer, I would want to know what was going on in my vicinity. And I would like to have the contacts in place so that if something happens that is deleterious to my population and my resources, I'd like to have a name and a number where to go. Right.
Yeah, I'm interested in, getting involved and seeing what it is and seeing how it can actually protect our states. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it seems like there's a lot there that we could do as an assembly.
Well,
I'm trying to bring it out so that everybody can understand what it is and what we should do about it,
Right. You're in a position where you can offer guidance to these people and organizations so that you get the treatment and the understanding that you deserve.
Okay. That's good information. Thank you very much.
Take care.
God bless you. Take care.
You too.
Thank you, Rocky. Susan James. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, Anna. Hi, everyone. Sorry for your loss, Anna. Anyway, I just wanted to run a few things that I've been thinking about for quite a while, and I just want to run it by you. I have a person, a lot of people, but mainly this one that just came up just a couple of days ago that's having a foreclosure October 8th, just a few days from now. And he says that he used your bond, your indemnity bond, and and he said that they told him that it was a fraudulent document. Well, we already know that they're not acknowledging all the letters, all the documents that are sent to them, because I get a lot of people that tell me that they're not recognizing their standing. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with the law used for foreclosure. It's the Civil Code 2924. It's the current as of January 1st, 2024, is every transfer of an interest in property other than a trust made only as a security for the performance of another act is to be deemed a mortgage, except for when the case of personal property. Okay, so also there's a takings clause, which means that the takings clause, the Fifth Amendment.
Susan,
Yeah.
none of that applies.
So
They're not even addressing him. They're not addressing me. Okay, they're addressing a fictitious citizen of their particular jurisdiction. Okay, they're not addressing us.
I'm just thinking of how to use their own laws against them for saving people's homes.
The quickest way out of it for him is to do an affidavit, a testimony in the form of an affidavit that he is alive, okay, and that he is exercising his exemption, and that he is not a federal citizen of any kind. Okay, that's the quick way out. And I have a template that I can post so that people don't have to spend time worrying about or trying to figure out how to do it themselves. Now, I didn't use that, okay? I had a different agenda. My purpose was to bring both the the territorial commercial corporation and the municipal corporation to bay. So I already had a plan in mind that I knew might result in me being evicted, but which would nonetheless serve to, well, not exactly entrap, but would serve to take down both the territorial and the municipal structure. But if someone is just trying to avoid a bunch of unpleasant nastiness and having to fight to get their property back after they've been accused of bogus tax debts, the swiftest way to do it is just what I said, an affidavit that covers those issues, handed to the court clerk and the district attorney and the Secretary of State.
Well, you know what? Did Terry get her land back using that method?
No, she never tried that method. We didn't have that available at the time.
Well, I think that should be tried and see if it works, because nothing's working, Claire, Anna, and people are getting evicted out of their homes.
I'm trying to address that for everybody right now, Susan. But obviously I was evicted out of my home too. So this is not something that is any given. You've got a bunch of crooks and thugs who have been operating in an improper way under improper assumptions for 150 years. If you think this is going to be simple and easy, it's not. You know, I'm hoping with one case to bring in the army and quash it, okay, to put an end to it.
Okay, Anna, do you think I've been ungracious to you? Because there's some people saying I'm ungracious to you. I don't think
well, you're sitting here and you're going, but we need help, we need help.
No,
I know you need help. Okay, I know you need help. Why do you think I'm going through all this?
This is not for me. This is for other people. This is not for me.
I know, but it's still, you know, I'm fully aware. I mean, why do you think I've endangered my own property and gone through all this crap myself? I was the one that put the issue before the court. Okay.
I didn't mean to upset you. I just wanted to throw this idea out at you and see what you thought and get your thoughts on it. That's all my intention was.
My thought is that they are trying to use a presumption of public trust interest in dead men's estates, and the fastest way to do that is to do an affidavit of life with a declaration of under the Expatriation Act of 1868 that you are not a U.S. citizen. You are no sort of federal citizen at all, okay? And the quickest way to do that is to just bring it forward and put it in the hands of the clerk and the district attorney and the Secretary of State.
Okie dokie, then I'll pass that information on to.
And And if they act on you anyway, then the ultimate enforcement is the Provost Marshal of the United States Army. It's Army, not JAG, because it's a land jurisdiction issue. The Army is supposed to protect us.
Okey
So
dokey.
if you find a JAG attorney acting as the Provost Marshal, you go straight over their head to, her name is Sarah K. Albright, Albrycht, who is the actual Provost Marshal, Brigadier General Sarah K. Albright. Because ultimately, these guys are not going to stop until we bring the Army in and start arresting them for racketeering. And that's exactly what I'm engaged in right now. Now I've got a three-pronged attack going, all right? But, you know, when a few of them get marched off and go to Gitmo, then the message will get taken seriously, and you will no longer have these people acting as racketeers and pirates on our shores.
All right, is that all then? Just what you just said, right?
Yeah, that's all any of us can do. You can use the same means if you get into an appeal hearing and do that. You know, you can do an appeal hearing. You can, you know, bring the complaint all the way up to the Provost Marshal. And the top brass of the military is now aware of us. They're now aware of these issues, and they're aware of their responsibilities. And that's why all this is starting to change. Okay. But this is still early days. We're still dealing with an entrenched bureaucracy that's hostile, that is self-interested, that wants to make it, you know, themselves, they want to seize upon and illegally confiscate our assets to unjustly enrich themselves. Okay, so they're highly motivated and they're entrenched. And we're going to start taking out entire court systems. We're going to start taking their officers to jail. We're going to start making them accountable for this, okay? We're going to start enforcing foreign court judgments on them, okay? Because guess what? We are what? We're foreign sovereigns. We're not sovereign citizens. We're foreign sovereigns. We are foreign with respect to them, and they have to accept our foreign court judgments. All right? Every single one of us can act as a court of record and issue judgments based on factual information that we have in our own hands. Okay? And every state assembly potentially has the ability to pull together a grand jury and consider the questions and issue a foreign judgment and force our erstwhile employees to obey the public law. It's our own fault that we haven't been doing this, okay? We need to do it. We need to get our grand juries and our trial juries, and we need to start issuing foreign judgments and tell these people wrong, right, or whatever. Okay, our jurors stand above their jurors. Our authority, our standing stands above theirs 100%. But we have not been doing our job. We've had how many years to get our jury pools together? You know, how long? 5 years? And a lot of states are still fiddling around and can't find a dozen people to stand as jurors and consider the facts and the law and issue a ruling. Okay, well, Alaska's getting a crash course.
Thank you, Anna. I'm gonna yield now, and God bless you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank-
All right, guys. If you can't tell, I'm really exhausted today. I've been in a lot of very intense preparation of documents. We've had multiple different kinds of intercessionary and court type arguments before high levels of military. And I have been tasked to write a declaration that will basically form a basis for worldwide integration of military and banking for the people, and a law system for the people. So I have a lot of work to do, and I'm sorry, but I'm really fading right now.
No worries, Anna. We can reconvene next week. And thank you so much for being with us tonight and for giving us this very valuable information, because people are suffering and this is exactly what they need to know. And we know you've written about it, and but these sort of silver bullet, like you called it, these succinct and easy, simple instructions, I think are going to help people. So thank you.
I'll try to get that copy of an affidavit that has that kind of effect if the people you're dealing with are educated properly. But it's always a question of whether you're dealing with ignoramuses or not. People who don't know simply don't know.
Right.
Okay?
All right.
All right, guys. Good night.
Thank
Good night,
Okay, we'll
Anna.
Good night, thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Anna.
Good night, Anna.
Good night.
Love you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, Anna.
Bye, Anna.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, Anna. We love you.
Night.
All right. Good night, everybody. Anna's officially off the call, and we will reconvene next Thursday. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
Michelle.
Welcome.
you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
Michelle.
I'll do it for Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Good night. Jason, I see your hand shot up. You have a question or a comment?
Oh, I was gonna say, for Susan and everyone else, what the precedents she's trying to establish. See that everybody knows about that Minnesota case back in the day where the guy was able to prove the fraud, but it only set precedent in that one county, and that's why only people in that county can get their mortgages wiped away. And what she's doing is trying to do it nationwide, and so we just gotta keep our fingers crossed. Like she said, she has a 3-pronged attack, and she's setting them up. So hopefully we'll get some remedy.
Thank you.
I yield. I just wanted to say that.
Remember the name of that lawsuit, that case? She did tell us that we should do that on our state courts and county courts as well. But I just, for the life of me, I can't remember that case.
I'll try to look it up, but yeah, it's that famous one, and it only works on that county.
Is it the Jerome Daly case? Darn it, I forget.
That's it. It's Jerome Daly.
It's Jerome Daly. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, that case. It's the case, you guys, because it happened on a county. It has jurisdiction only at that county, right? But the decision can be mirrored on any other county. So if we want mortgage help on our local, we've got to present that case as basically as a precedent, and get it passed locally so that people in our own counties can avoid, if you will. I don't like that word. Avoid it's a legal term. I apologize. I don't mean avoid, but what I mean is not be subjected to the system that's in place right now. So everyone should take a moment and read that case, Jerome Daly, and familiarize yourself. I mean, that should be just to get our courts up. All right, y'all. Thank you for bringing that forward, Jason.
Everyone have a good night and stay safe.
Thank you. All right. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, Michelle.
You.
Hi, Valerie. Thank you.